Welcome back to the 12 Days of Bookmas. Today I am making a quick bookish craft, Galaxy Watercolor Bookmarks. This will be the first in this series of craft projects. I am going for a bit of a deeper colored galaxy look where there's blues, purples, and some pops of pink to give the colors a little extra magic. These are really easy to batch because you paint one large sheet, splatter in the stars, and then cut everything down into multiple bookmarks. They're perfect as little gifts, or honestly, just fun to keep for yourself. So let's get started. For this project, I'm using cold press watercolor paper, my pan watercolor palette. These are pans that I have filled up with different schminky paints. The set I'm going to be using is the Super Granulation Galaxy. I'm also going to use a round brush, some water, paper towels, masking tape to hold the paper down, and a little bit of gouache paint for the stars, as well as possibly using some white pen just to make the stars pop a little bit more. I'll cut everything down after the painting is finished, and I might decide to round the corners or add some ribbon. That's all optional, and I'm not quite sure if I want to do that yet until I have my painting done. I'm going to start by taping my watercolor paper down to my desk just so that it doesn't warp as I keep adding in different layers of water. I'm starting by wetting the paper slightly so that the colors blend more smoothly. I'm going to use a bigger brush just to make this go a little bit faster. You don't need to soak it, just a light layer of water helps everything flow together. Now I'm going to lay down my lighter colors first. So I'm going to start with the pinky color. I don't want the whole thing to be pink, just enough to give it some vibrancy. Next, I'm moving into my purples and blues. I'm going to keep the edges soft, letting the colors bleed into each other. Galaxies look best when they're a little unpredictable, so I'm trying to not overthink this part. I will always be able to go in and add some more layers for depth after this first one dries. And now I'm going to add a little bit of black very lightly around the edges. You don't want to completely cover the colors. We're just going to try to deepen everything so it feels more like space. I'm going to go back with a clean, damp brush and soften any harsh lines or, again, blend some of these areas a little bit more. And then I'm going to let this dry and come back to do another layer on it. Now that it's had a chance to dry, I'm just going to lightly re-wet it again. This time I'm just going to spritz it. And I'm dropping in some more paints just to add a little bit more depth and layering. And then again, I will let it dry before I move on to the next step of turning these into bookmarks. I'm just trying to add a little bit more depth, add a bit more color in some areas, and deepen up some of my sections a bit. This one didn't turn out to be a super dark galaxy, and that's fine. Galaxy paintings are always so different, and I find out that it is very much a trust the process type of thing. Every time I am painting anything remotely galaxy related, I question what I'm doing often in the middle of it. And for some reason though, by the time it dries and the colors have blended together a little bit, it still looks pretty cool, especially once we apply our white gouache over the top for the stars and then cut it into bookmarks. Any pieces that you might not be so crazy about how they look are going to look a lot better at that point. So I will see you back here when this piece has completely dried. Now that the painting is dry, I'm going to take some white gouache on my paintbrush and just flick it to add little star texture throughout the painting. So I'm going to go through, finish adding that, and I might use my white gel pen to add a little bit more star markings, and I will see you back when this is all dry. Now that the sheet is fully dry, I'm going to cut it down into strips. I'm going to go with about 2 inches by 6 inches, but really you can make them any size you'd like. I'm also going to trim off the edges where I don't have the paint from where I had taped it down. And I'm going to keep all of these leftover pieces for scrap to use in future projects. I'm also going to use my corner punch to round the corners on a couple of these. So I have a nice rounded edge. So this step is completely optional. I just, again, like how it finishes off a little bit more compared to the straight edge, but both are perfectly fine. You can also punch a hole at the top and add ribbon, but I will keep this batch simple. I don't tend to love tassels or ribbons for most bookmarks. If you want to get fancy, you can use a silver or gold metallic pen to add a few more star details. The metallic gold or silver looks really pretty against darker galaxies. And again, just adds a nice little pop on it. And here they are, Galaxy bookmarks. Each one looks completely different, which is my favorite part about doing this as one big sheet. These make great gifts and they look really dramatic in person, especially with the splattering of the stars. Thank you so much for hanging out with me for another day of Bookmas. Let me know in the comments if you've ever tried making Galaxy bookmarks or if you'd like to see more watercolor projects. I'll see you in the next video.